It is Sunday, the 21st of April, 2024. Thank you so much for being with me. My name is Nora Osende. Yet again, we dig into the stories that made headlines through the week and we analyze them with experts. And this week, exactly, we are going to start with remembering a life that was devoted to the Uganda matters. Now, just yesterday, actually, there was a celebration in remembrance of the 33rd anniversary of the passing of the late Cardinal His Grace Emmanuel Kiwanuka Nsubuga that had a profound devotion to the Uganda matters, and his legacy still lives on in so many lives of people, not just in the Catholic Church, but world over. And so we sat with an interview with Father Nyombi Richard, that's of the Missionaries of Africa, and he took us through the life of the late Cardinal Nsubuga. And here's more.
I am Father Nyombi Richard of the Missionaries of Africa, commonly known here as the White Fathers, and we have this chance to say a word about the late Cardinal Emmanuel Nsubuga. 33 years since the Lord called him. So we would like to use this chance to review to his life. Who was this man, especially for the Catholic Church here in Uganda and of course in the Archdiocese of Kampala where he was the Archbishop. So the late Cardinal was born in 1914 in the the parish of Subizi in Kiyinda Mityana Diocese, and he was also baptized there in the same year. We see him in Bukalasa in 1930, and that's where he went for his minor seminary, and he then continues his formation in the seminary. And in 1946, on the 15th of December, he will be ordained priest in Lubaga. And this date of 15th December is marked in the Archdiocese of Kampala every year. That's the day for all the priests who are working in the Archdiocese, but it is especially in memory of him. That's the date of his ordination. But also, of course, then later it is going to happen to be the birthday of the Cardinal Wamala. Immediately after his ordination, he was appointed in Mubende Parish, which is, at that time it was in the same diocese, but now Mubende is in Kiyinda Mityana. And probably a note there is that all the formation, the parish, the formation, and now even in the parish where he's going to be appointed, they were the Missionaries of Africa, the White Fathers who are running. So they are going to have an impact on the late Cardinal. And we see in his ways of doing things, in his commitment, the devotions he has, you see that this is a heritage he got from the White Fathers. So in Mubende, he was there 1946 to 48. Then we see him in Gayaza Parish from 48 to 55. Then 1956 to 61, he'll be in Konge Parish. And he was there in Konge when he's going to be given that news that he was appointed to become a vicar, and then eventually he will become a bishop. So he's going to be appointed Vicar General of the new Archbishop of Kampala. At that time it was Rubaga. That was the late Kiwanuka, Archbishop Kiwanuka. And then when Kiwanuka dies in 1966, he's going to replace him as the Archbishop. And this time he will be even the first Archbishop of Kampala Archdiocese, because at that time Jinja is going to be born as Jinja Diocese, and then Kampala Archdiocese is going to take the part of Kampala, which at that time before was being under Nsambya, as at that time people were talking. So he will be the first Archbishop of Kampala Archdiocese in 1966. His time as Archbishop is going to be marked by political instability in this country. In 66, the Obote is going to take over, and then in 71, Idi Amin is going to take over. Then in 79, 80, again there will be another change in the leadership of this country, and he will still be the Archbishop. And all those times which followed, he was going to face it. And through all that, we are going to see a man who is full of faith, a man who has a strong devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary, a man who has a strong devotion to the Uganda martyrs. And also, to add on, a man who had a very strong devotion to Mapera. And I think all those strong characters helped him to face this situation with courage, but also with deep faith. Now, as surely this year we are celebrating the 60th anniversary of the canonization of the Uganda martyrs, I think he is a man that we can look at and reflect on his life and to see what he did to promote the devotion of the Uganda martyrs, to promote the sites connected to the Uganda martyrs for the pilgrimage, to see that they are known, they are loved, but mostly they are taken as models of their faith. When we see the shrine in Namugongo, he's very key. He's the one who is going to start that work of constructing that shrine. So each time we see it, we remember him. We remember him, what he did, and how he had strong faith that providence will help him to get money. He's going to make fundraising not only here but also in Europe. So he had a very strong devotion to the Uganda martyrs. Then also, what we see in him is that strong devotion to the pioneer missionaries, but especially to Mapera. And these days we have that cause for the canonization of Father Simeon Lauder Mapera and Brother Armance. He was the initiator in 1987. Now, also, it was during his time that we are going to celebrate the centenary of the arrival of the first missionaries, 1979, but also the centenary of the death of the Uganda martyrs in 1986. So I think all these were helping him really to reflect and then to give him courage to face all the challenges that he had. He's going to also is remembered that he founded some of the key institutions that we have in the Archdiocese, but which are not only serving the Archdiocese, but the whole of Uganda. We have St. Imbaga Seminary, he's the founder of that. Then we have also the Good Samaritan Sisters of Narukolongo. He's also the founder of that institute. Then he's also the founder of the Brothers of Emmaus. So we see a man who was really devoted to see that the church grows and the church is at the service of the people, especially a people who is suffering. So he's going to retire. He's going to retire as Archbishop in 1990, and then just 1 year after, he will die in 1991. He will die in Cologne, in Germany, and he will be brought back here and buried at Narukolongo. At that time, everybody expected him that he would be buried in the cathedral, but he had asked that he be buried at Narukolongo, where you have that home of Bakate Yamba, poor people, so that as they say that he wanted to be buried so that all those who would be going to just to pray for him at his grave, they would also see this family and the Bakate Yamba around, and then they will be also inspired to help them.
And we'll come back from that. Well, in studio today, we have a lady who is going to tell us about hemophilia. Hemophilia is one of the stories that we broke actually through the week. They were celebrating the World Hemophilia Day this very week. And so some of the stories that caught our attention is this blood disorder that when someone knocks himself or injures himself, it is very hard for their blood to clot. And sometimes, unfortunately, it may lead to death. In studio today, we have the Executive Secretary of the Hemophilia Foundation of Uganda. This is Madame Agnes Chisache, who is going to dig more into hemophilia. What exactly is this condition? How do we manage it? And so much more. And all that is coming up right now.
Thank you. Pleasure to meet you, Nora. And I want to thank Uctv for hosting us. My name is Agnes Kisache, and I work with the Hemophilia Foundation of Uganda as the Executive Secretary. Yes, Nora has told you about World Hemophilia Day, something that is very important in the lives of patients living with hemophilia. And of course, we join the rest of the world to commemorate the World Hemophilia Day.
Okay, talking about hemophilia, first things first, what exactly is hemophilia in basic terms?
Hemophilia is a genetic disorder, blood disorder. Patients with hemophilia lack some of the clotting proteins to make their blood clot whenever they are exposed to a surgery or any trauma. And it is genetic. It's not, you cannot catch it from anyone, but we get it from our parents. I know the science talks about the X and Y, so I know for hemophilia it comes with the X chromosome as long as it is deficient. So mothers pass it on to their children, the boys have it, and the girls are carriers.
Okay, so that means that the blood does not clot easily.
Yeah.
It takes a little while. That seems really dangerous.
And it doesn't mean that other normal people don't bleed. We all bleed, but these ones bleed more than normal, bleed excessively, not like children who don't have hemophilia. It takes long hours to stop. It's like opening a tap and the water continues to get out of the tap. So it's before you stop it, it will not stop. It will continue to come out. So it is the same thing, that it doesn't come at a very high rate, but it continues to come out. That is when someone is exposed to an external cut, we see it coming out. But if is exposed to injury or he hits himself, sometimes they play with ailments, they get internal bleeding. So it manifests in two forms, external bleeding and internal bleeding, and they are both deadly.
That is very deadly.
Yes.
And very unfortunate, actually, I must say. People would actually associate this culturally to different things, I can imagine, because if it's a very rare condition and then somehow I get a cut and then the bleeding does not stop, I would imagine a lot of things. Do you normally come across people in that thought pattern?
Yeah, that's a very good observation. I want to tell you, almost 98% of the patients that are already known, that is what they thought. You look at this condition that, for example, someone gives birth to about 7 children, and 4 out of the 7 are boys, and they are all bleeding. So it's normal to think like that. So most of the patients with more than 2 children in a family who have hemophilia, they went to which doctors? Traditional healers, let me correct it, traditional healers, to seek for their support. But this is a genetic disorder. It has nothing to do with witchcraft. Please don't waste your money going to witch doctors to seek for care or support. It is a medical condition and it is managed. It is managed by health workers. So please don't waste your money.
Surely.
Yes.
Surely that will be a lot of money wasted for no good reason. Yeah. When you talk about clotting and all these other things that are associated to it, what are some of the basic signs that you can tell us that someone could be having hemophilia? Yes, there are those very basic symptoms I can talk about.
For example, the external bleeding. Someone goes to, for example, the Muslim fraternity. We appreciate circumcision, but I have seen number of our patients who are Muslims, when they go to a circumciser, to the sheikhs, to conduct that circumcision as a cultural practice, as it's a religious, I think, practice among the Muslims. Whenever they go for that, at that time when they have to do it, they bleed after circumcision. Right. Others, for example, the Easterners who have done circumcision in there as a culture, they have been exposed to those cuts, they bleed continuously. Sometimes you may visit a dentist, you want to extract your teeth. Some of these patients bleed excessively. So for those who don't have severe hemophilia, because we have severe, minor, and moderate. So those children who have severe, you can easily see it even right from birth. Maybe the umbilical cord is getting off, children bleed in the umbilical cord. But those who have minor hemophilia, it may not show at that stage. Right. A child might grow up to maybe to 1 year, 9 months. You have not seen any symptom. Maybe probably because their hemophilia is mild, is moderate. They have some clotting levels. But these ones who don't have clotting proteins at all, who are very severe, it may manifest right from birth. Then others, for example, the mothers. We also have mothers, women, much as it is so much among boys, but we have seen children, women, who have still hemophilia. So sometimes some of the symptoms are menstrual periods. Even the carrier mothers of hemophilia, they suffer from longer menstrual periods, more than a week, which is abnormal. We all know that it should be more than about 4 to 5 days. But when you see a girl having more than a week menstruating, please think about seeking for care. Go for some kind of investigation to our health workers. They will be able to guide you appropriately. So bleeding happens everywhere when it comes to hemophilia. A child might be exposed to an eye injury. You will see child bleeding from the eyes, from the ears, from the nose. We have heard about nose bleeding. Nose bleeding is also one of the symptoms of hemophilia, although it is not conclusive. So someone may have nose bleeding. Please think about testing for hemophilia. So there are different avenues where you will see these children bleeding. But when it comes to internal bleeding, some of them, their joints are damaged because they had internal bleeding. The blood didn't come out, so they end up not moving. The joints cannot move. The elbow, maybe the knees, the ankle, different joints. Right. Yes, you find them with difficult while they are walking, because they have experiencing pain, because the bleeding has not been resolved. So they will, sometimes they even go to disability organizations. I remember around 2016, I met one of the boys who had gone to Katalemwa charity organization because they thought he's disabled. He actually thought it was a disability. Absolutely, and they even operated him, which is very deadly. Dear. They tried to open the knee, and when somehow he was trying to recover, he was taken to Katalemwa for rehabilitation. So we end up going to traditional healers, to those charity organizations that work with disabled children, and yet the condition is hemophilia. Yeah.
Well, you were talking about some of the symptoms, and I could clearly see some of the symptoms as I was covering that story. The joint pains and then the swellings. There was, you could see evidently these patients are actually in pain, you understand? And so, but one thing that actually also I saw out when I was covering the hemophilia story is that I saw a lot of men than the ladies. Yeah. Tell me about that.
Yes, because I said it's X-linked. So it appears among women, men, sorry. So the boy child is the one who suffers. But I said there are scenarios where you may find a lady who has hemophilia. All other bleeding disorders like von Willebrand disease, which is even the most common, but we have not paid attention to it. So because the mother passes on the gene to the boy, because of the X from the mother, which is already deficient, so that's why you saw boys having this condition. And we know the men have the X. So we may not go into the science, but it's because the boy picks the X chromosome, which is already affected from the mother. So that's why we see it from the boys more. But we have 2 girls who are registered with us, and they have hemophilia. So it is rare among girls. It is more
predominant
among boys.
Okay, interesting. And now that we are talking in numbers, boys, girls, do you have an estimate of what we're dealing with in numbers, in terms of numbers?
Yeah, now, we expect to have more than 4,600 patients with hemophilia in the country, because this is something that we compute with the prevalence of hemophilia, and we know 1 in 5,000 births is born with hemophilia. So when we convert it to our population and the male births that have probably taken place in a day, so we do some bit of calculation, and we expect to have more than 4,600 based on our population of 46 million Ugandans. If it's more, then the number is going to be more than that. So today we have registered over 93% of the patients with hemophilia. So it means 93% is not identified, I'm sorry. Okay. So more than 7% is the only diagnosed population. So it means many patients, we haven't reached to them. And I'm sure some of them have died, others are already disabled, others have given up on themselves. So it's a big issue, and yet we haven't reached out to them to support them. So because I told you we have only 7% of the expected number that is diagnosed.
So I can see there is an enormous work that still needs to be done. On top of that, there is a lot of sensitization that needs to be done. And then when we come to educating and sensitizing people, when I was covering the story, an incident, this lady who was telling us how he thought actually it was witchcraft from a co-wife, and then later on the husband abandoning her because of her condition. It just leads me to your foundation. What is your foundation all about? Because she is actually part of your foundation.
Yes, Hemophilia Foundation is a patient organization and is accredited by the World Federation of Hemophilia, and we work with other different partners, international NGOs, and the government. We don't work alone. So the foundation supports mothers and children in different ways, even capacity building for health workers. We do that because we want health workers who are knowledgeable. Of course, they know so much about medicine, but we continue to build their capacity to support these children. Then we also give treatment to the patients through the different regional referral hospitals we work with. And from the support we get from our partners, we are able to pass on this treatment and diagnosis. Then we also do psychosocial support. We know these children go through a lot, even the parents. The mother yesterday told you that the father abandoned them because of the condition. It happens. It is very common. Most of our patients now are single mothers because of this condition. So we have to support them psychologically, empower them to start up businesses, to live a normal life, to support their children in schools. You know, some of the children pull out of school because of frequent absentia in school. Sometimes these children take like 1 month in a term because of the pain they are facing. So some of them have chosen to stop studying because they cannot bear the pain, and even discriminated from schools where they are. So a lot of things that the foundation does to empower the children, to support health workers, to even sensitize communities. We know many people don't know about the condition, and we live with these community members. So we have really tried to equip them with information about the condition, to support these children. We have continued to support the Muslim community to ensure safe circumcision. That is also one of our areas of interest. We have supported the surgeons in the eastern region to ensure safe circumcision, not to deal with circumcision, but to do it safely. So there is different audiences. We visit schools. We know some of these young girls who are suffering from these issues of menstrual periods. So we reach out to different communities to educate them about hemophilia, and whenever we train them, we are able to identify new people. We are able to ensure safe environment for the patients. Yeah.
Well, that's a very noble thing there, and something that your organization is actually doing, and I believe it's being very helpful. So much so that in our story that we ran this week, a gentleman called Peter, one of the things that Peter really had trouble with was cooling, and unfortunately for him, he would be bullied at school just because of the way he would walk, you know. Little did the students know that actually Peter has a problem with his knees because of hemophilia. And it is quite sad that lack of information and sensitization and just people being aware and being more conscious about what's happening is there. And I feel like your foundation is on the right track. However, I just want to know if I know of a hemophilia patient, how do we support them, really?
Yeah. My viewers, I want to request you to pick this information, help us identify these cases to services. Hemophilia Foundation of Uganda works with quite a number of regional referral hospital, Lira Regional Referral Hospital, Lacho Hospital, Mbarara Regional Referral Hospital, Masaka, Kasese, Kagando, very many. We have over 9 centers we have established, and we send factor to those centers. The treatment is called factor. It is not called Panadol, the normal Panadol we know, but is that factor that is missing in someone's blood that we replace. So we work closely with the administrators to ensure that the products are offered to these patients freely. We don't want to hear that a product was given to them after making a payment. It is free of charge because we get it for free from our partners. And I want to thank our partners for the overwhelming support we get from them. Then we also diagnose. The main referral hospital is, our main center is Mulago National Referral Hospital, and we have been able to diagnose these patients since 2011, free of charge. These are what I'm emphasizing free of charge, my dear viewers, is that this is a very expensive disease to manage in terms of treatment, in terms of diagnosis. For example, treatment for hemophilia, one international unit would cost someone $1. And the very first dose is 500 international units. So it is already $500. And this child is going to be given like 4 shots. Just imagine $500, multiply it by 5 days. How much money is that? It's quite expensive. That is for the young one, who is someone who is like below 4 years. He's the one who is going to start with 500. But it again takes us to the severity. Someone who is having a life-threatening bleed, for example, bleeding in the brain, sometimes we need to multiply the dose as the doctors will suggest, depending on the situation. So it is very expensive to manage this condition, and we entirely depend on donations. Diagnosis is expensive. As it may cost you about $100 to test hemophilia in a private lab. So here at Mulago National Referral Hospital, the testing is free of charge. Treatment is free of charge. And here I want to call upon government to support this neglected disease. We live with these patients. There are so many that are disparate, and we cannot depend on donations because they are not sustainable.
Surely.
We are looking at because we look at the future of these children. 5 years after the donors have stopped giving us these donations, I don't know how their life will be like. Yeah, which future, we were looking at the future, the generation of these children. So we call upon government to support us in terms of outreaches. We need to identify these other patients who are not yet reached. Then we also want government to support diagnosis and treatment, because these are children, these are Ugandans who have a right to good health. Yeah.
Surely, I see there are appeal to government and what they can do better and some of the things that they have been doing. Before we wind up with hemophilia, you could just give a word of encouragement to someone out there, to people who may be very oblivious about the condition, and for people out there who have hemophilia, just your closing remarks.
Yes, our dear viewers and parents who have hemophilia, and I will even say who have children with chronic conditions, let us not give up. Let us continue supporting our children. These are normal children. Living with hemophilia doesn't define anyone. And of course, I'm proud of families with these children with hemophilia, with other chronic conditions. They have persistently loved to support their children. Irrespective of the challenges they are going through, they have endeavored to do all it takes to support their children. Please, parents, keep it up. Mothers, I know most of the mothers are the ones that support their children, but also the fathers who have not abandoned their families. I want to thank you so much. And those who are thinking about abandoning, please don't leave these children. They are normal children, just like any other child. Please don't leave them. Continue supporting them, and even the community. I want to request you, don't discriminate children with chronic conditions. We all have diseases, we all have some conditions somehow. But if you discriminate them, you're doing a disservice. These are children who can turn into responsible citizens. So if you discriminate them, it is really bad. We want you to continue supporting them. Those who don't know about the condition, please check us on our website, www.hfuganda. And if you need some more information, please, you can call on our line 0702 005289, and we have also our Twitter handle. It is HF Uganda. Please visit us and learn more about hemophilia. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Agnes. It has been a pleasure having you on the show, and really it has been very eye-opening and insightful.
Yeah.
Well, it has been nice having you. I hope we have understood or borrowed some information or picked a leaf when it comes to hemophilia. Really, we shouldn't discriminate people with disorders in our society. Instead, we should be more supportive.
Uctv, good news for all.
Catch incredible stories of resilience, success.
You can manage dirty money
With a topping of inspiration.
Get interested in people, not interested in yourself.
Inspire, achieve, repeat.
You are watching Uctv, good news for all. For this and more, tune in to Kasese Get Radio 100.5 in Western Region, located at the hill of the Diocese of Kasese. KGR brings you all Catholic programs and an advertising platform in all our radio shows like Good Morning Renzori, Chama Toboka, Ukute, the business show, Propeller, the request show and sports, Evaluation, Bahinga Bakuluka, Late Night Show, and many others. Our other services include Isuzu Tipa, a no car, public address system, live band, omokekera, an audio recording studio, and outside live broadcast. For more information, call 0773 597 166 or visit our website www.kasesegatradio.com. Kasesegat Radio, Omusondoria, the voice of truth.
UCTV, good news for all.
Still through the week, we had the very first National Open Court Day session led by the judiciary. There's so many people who turned up, the judiciary, members of the judiciary, the local masses, they were all there to understand what this open day is. The open day was basically to foster the relationship between the judiciary and the common man, to bridge gaps and to make it, easier for them to access the judiciary and the services for better understanding. Well, in order to dig more into this issue, we visited a gentleman who is an expert when it comes to courts and the law. And that is the Executive Director of the Foundation of Human Rights, Dr. Livingstone Sewanyana. We sat down with him just to get a little more detail and understand what exactly this is about. Well, according to him, it is a right step in the right direction. And here's more.
One of the key challenges that we face in this country is how to ensure effective access to justice. Now, effective access to justice can be interpreted in many ways. One is the regularity and availability of judicial officers, the availability of courts across the country, but more importantly, the whole question of awareness about the functioning of the judiciary and the legal process. Indeed, one way of dealing with that barrier is to reach out to the population. So the idea behind the National Open Court Day for the judiciary is a welcome one. Indeed, it's overdue. It's high time that there is an interface between the users or the justice seekers and the justice suppliers, that is the judicial officers. So it is a welcome initiative. We need to have more of them.
Surely we need to have more of them, and I hope that this is not the very, it won't take a long time before another Open National Court Day session happens. Among the things that were talked about as concerned during the Open Court Day is that there's still a lot that needs to be done. What is your view on that in regards to access to justice?
As I said earlier, there are a lot of barriers to ensuring effective access to justice. One of them is understanding the legal process and the procedures. They're very intricate. Many people do not understand how you even initiate an application. They have even fear. They have a phobia of the courts, because, as you know, the courts are very, they are out there. They are not part of. They are not seen as everyday life, and sometimes because these people are poor and they are facing adversaries who are well off to do, there are challenges that arise like corruption. So, among the barriers that we need to look into beyond awareness is ensuring that we have regular hearings. At the moment we have a big case backlog. You find someone's case has been lying there for the last 5 years, and sometimes the witnesses die, the litigants die before they even have the judgment. So it's important that we have daily hearings, and as much as possible, they fast track the hearing of these cases. But there is also another element which is very closely related to that. Beyond daily hearings, we must also have a system that does not restrict the ordinary person in ensuring access to justice. you know, there's such a bureaucracy within the court system, like any other institution. We need to break the bureaucracy. And among the recent innovations is the introduction of IT, that you can file your case on the IT, on their court system. Your representative or legal representative simply makes a submission, again online, and the hearing is done online, and the judgment is delivered online without necessarily having to go to the court. All these are innovations that are being looked into. But also the costs associated with accessing justice. You know, there are so many court fees, and some people cannot afford them. So there is need to look into that to ensure that, you know, those who are poor, who cannot afford, have a way of having their cases heard as well. So there is a problem. There is also another problem of lawyers who often seek adjournments. They seek adjournments, one adjournment after another, making it very difficult for the court user to have his or her case heard expeditiously. So lawyers are also being invited to ensure that they do their work in a professional way. So there are still very many barriers, but I believe that the judiciary is on the right course of ensuring that the judiciary of today or tomorrow is not the judiciary of yesterday, where people will have to or have had to wait for long periods before their cases are heard. And we hope that with the expeditious trial, especially using IT, more and more litigants will now see some sense of fairness.
You've talked about some of the barriers, and the most hard barrier is things to do with corruption and the time that it takes just to hear a case being so long. The other thing that we noticed during the National Open Court Day is that there were a certain category of cases that really stood out, and those are the land cases, you know. In regards to human rights, how does that reflect on our society?
One thing we need to bear in mind is that poverty is on the increase in this country, and there are hardly any viable economic undertakings or ventures by majority of our population. And as such, because of poverty, the only recourse they have is land. And no wonder there are so many land disputes everywhere. People are selling off land in order to survive, and that also is raising issues within the family. So when it comes to land, we really need to fast track the cases concerning land, but also to understand the procedures. Some of the disputes that have to do with the land arise with regard to succession. When the owner of the estate, who is the parent, passes on, and sometimes they have to send away their wife. All the children start bickering. All among them, the administrators who now seek letters of administration and want to manage the estate. Now, there is what is called intermeddling that goes on. Now, intermeddling is an illegal way of handling someone's estate. Now, the procedures around succession are also very complicated. And the powers that, for example, administrators have once they have got either letters of administration or letters of probate also need to be understood very well. In fact, one area where we need to put emphasis is to make sure that people get to understand what happens when a person dies. So most of the disputes we are talking about here have a lot to do with succession. They have a lot to do with the distribution of the estate. They have a lot to do also with displacement. We also have people who, because they wield power, because they are in positions of authority, have displaced people from their land arbitrarily. So we also need to deal with that issue of impunity. We have a problem of impunity. when you listen carefully to most of the allegations around land, they have a lot to do with impunity, high military officers being involved, or people in positions of authority being involved, trespassing on people's land, arbitrarily taking over their land. These are issues that need to be understood. So the different layers of authority need to do their job. They need to understand very well. For example, you had some people complaining about RDCs. That RDC, they assume roles and responsibilities which they don't have. Sometimes they neglect to enforce the court orders, and there have also been allegations that in matters of land, some judicial officers don't visit what is called the locus. The locus is where the land is, to understand the nature of the dispute and be able to provide a well-informed decision. So all these are matters that will need to be dealt with decisively if we are going to ensure effective access to justice. So creating awareness, people exercising their power in a manner that is befitting, but at the same time holding people accountable for their actions. So that is why you find that most people who are disadvantaged have a lot to do with challenges concerning access, utilization, and of course displacement on land.
You talked about the issue of accountability when it comes to someone who has, an offender. There are some instances where we've seen the orders of the court being rubbished or being not followed. How does that work? How do we gain that confidence as the people who are trying to use legal means to sort out issues?
That's a big challenge. When it comes to enforcement of orders, it's a responsibility of many players. For example, a court can issue an order, and the responsible officials could include police, they could include bailiffs, they could include even RDCs. So there are very many layers. One way of addressing that problem is to ensure that the layers of authority understand what they're supposed to do and act within their authority, not outside their powers. But generally, when it comes also to enforcement, there is a gray area. Sometimes people don't know what to do because courts don't enforce their orders. They only issue an order, and it's up to you now to ensure that it is enforced. And that is when there are so many stakeholders who come in, either for purely selfish motives or sometimes for motivations that are questionable. So in order to enforce orders, courts also need to be very clear on how the order will be enforced. I've read court decisions where you find that the court was not clear on how the order would be enforced. You send the court to the whole world. The whole world cannot enforce an order. You should be able to tell clearly in your court decision that this order will be enforced by the LC, by the police, by the parties concerned in this way. No wonder I welcome the introduction of new rules for bailiffs. The Chief Justice issued last year new rules for bailiffs, because bailiffs have also become a problem. You find people arbitrarily selling off other people's land or displacing them, allegedly that they are enforcing orders when actually they are acting outside their power. So you need to rein in as many stakeholders as possible. But as I said, there must be also clarity from the judicial officer on how the order will be enforced. When you don't do that and you throw it out to the world, that is when all manner of people now take advantage of these many times impoverished people.
Talking about impoverished people, there's a notion here that the poor do not exactly get justice, and so we've seen the justice system as for those, the rich, the ones that can afford. How can the judiciary get the justice system and the whole, system to just make it a little bit better or affordable or for the poor people out there?
I think that's an interesting element. I think one way of looking at that is to demystify the legal system. We should know that the legal system as it is a colonial construct. The legal system was introduced here as part of common law. And as such, the rules, procedures that govern the UK still govern here. So we need now to demystify that. We need to deconstruct the rules, make it as clear and understandable as possible to the ordinary person. Here we talk about, rules of procedure. They quote civil procedure rules. They quote criminal procedure rules. They quote all manner of rules, which definitely are alien to the ordinary person. So one way of doing that is to deconstruct, demystify, put them in the simplest language so that every ordinary person can understand what it means. That, for example, if you are going to obtain letters of administration, you follow A, B, C, D. Or if you want to seek justice on a civil matter, this is what happens. You have an application, you bring it before a judicial officer. The judicial officer gives you a date of hearing. The date of hearing, when you appear, you spell out your case, making it as simple as possible. But at the moment, they are as complex as you might think, and that actually is a disadvantage to the court seekers, the justice seekers. And these are the things that will need to be addressed if we are going to ensure real access to justice. Otherwise, it remains a notion, or largely a matter for the rich.
Indeed. And lastly, but not least, is how do you encourage people out there who are losing trust in our justice system because of some of the issues that we have been discussing, the cost of justice, the corruption, the delays? It has led some people to think like justice is a myth in Uganda. What would you say to them?
Indeed, justice to many people is a myth or a mystery. But I think that's the very reason why the courts are stepping out. They are stepping out of the court structures and are trying to reach out to the people. The idea of the National Judiciary Open Court Day is indeed in that direction, interfacing with the people so that people know that the courts exist for them, and also knowing the different layers and who is who. I think that's another important step. But the other step that is being taken is to decentralize the courts. As you heard, there are Court of Appeals being put up. There are high courts being established in various parts of Uganda. Virtually every constituency is going to have a magistrate court, bringing justice nearer to the people. But there is also another aspect, the aspect of discipline within the ranks. As you might be aware, there is a challenge that the judiciary is facing. It has those court clerks who largely have been alleged to be corrupt. Now, the problem is the way it is designed. They don't report to the judiciary. They report to public service. And that makes it very difficult to have them disciplined. So, increasingly, what I hear is that they are now lobbying to have those court clerks and court staff to be brought under their reign, meaning under the ambit of the Uganda Judicial Commission, so that they can easily be monitored and disciplined. That way we could be on the way to reducing corruption, because corruption is one of the impediments to effective access to justice. So I think, put together all of those sort of possibilities, we should be able to demystify this notion and be able to say, yes, even the poor can actually, at the end of the day, be heard.
And thank you so much for being with me again this Sunday. I am Nora Asende from the entire team, and I do have yourself a wonderful, wonderful Sunday and a good night.